I want to make a nomination of a brother who is all about action, and he's a brother that serves in the capacity as a rep for UFCW, working for migrant worker justice. He's worked in the Human Rights Department. And you know, this convention is not just talking about young people and defending their rights, it's about their participation. And this brother has been a union steward since the age of 16. It's also talking about community, and this brother, his flyer is here, Brother Pablo Godoy. He's got a long list in terms of community engagement. But it's also about human rights. And this brother has been one of the co-founders of the Latin American Trade Union Coalition, LATUC. And as we know, it takes a lot to found an organization like that. They've worked with the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. Brothers and sisters, Brother Godoy has experienced racism. He came to this country as a refugee, a political refugee, and he didn't speak the language. He came here as a young boy, and like many of us, he knows what racism feels like in Canada. Myself, Anthony Shelton, I'm with CUPE, Canadian Union of Public Employees, and I truly believe I've seen the OFL board operate, and if we elect Pablo Godoy to that board, he'll be able to represent us and defend our rights. Thank you.
Godoy, as you guys had heard. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my experience this week. There's a couple of things that I was hearing. I was asked a couple of times, Pablo, why are you running? Pablo, why don't you run for a youth position? Pablo, what makes you racialized? Because you don't seem racialized. I'll start with that same point. It's funny because my whole life I've had an experience where I walk into a room full of Caucasians and I'm not Canadian enough to sit in that room. I walk into a room with my racialized brothers and sisters and I'm asked, but where are you from? You don't really seem racialized. And so I end up being racialized by both sides. I ask you, what am I to do? Do I start my own equity-seeking group and call it Pablo's Search to Belong? Or do I sit with my brothers and sisters with whom I strongly, strongly identify? As it was said, I came here as a political refugee. My whole life I've struggled and lived and seen the things that many of us in this room have seen. Just today we were actually flyering, giving out my flyer at the bottom of the escalators. And there was a person that was standing beside me and asked, who's that on your flyer? We said it was me. She asked again, who is that on your flyer? We said it was me. She looked at me and grinned and said, oh, I thought it was a campaign to release somebody from prison. I'm standing here at the Ontario Federation of Labour, where we're here supposed to be talking about how we work together, how we defeat that type of mentality and those assumptions. Brothers and sisters, I've been coming to these conventions for 4 or 5 times now. I've been involved in the movement for over 12 years. Although my face looks like it's young and doesn't understand, I assure you that I do. I'm standing here not as somebody that wants to tell you exactly what it is I'm going to do. I'm a person that wants you to tell me how I can be your voice, how I can work for you in terms of bringing your voices to the forefront when it comes to sitting at the executive for the Ontario Federation of Labour. I think for far too long we've used these spaces to talk about what affects us, how we've been discriminated against. And at the end of the day, it's not a competition. I look across this room and I know that every single person here has their own story to tell, their own story of struggle, their own story of triumph. But what we have to use this space for is to come together and bring ideas, to attack the very issues. The very fact that we have to have this caucus is an issue. The reason that our issues aren't at the forefront when it comes to standing on that convention floor is what we have to discuss. Let's discuss how we get our issues there, what steps we will take. And brothers and sisters, it's very easy for us to criticize and make comments. It's a lot more difficult to construct a movement, to be part of a movement, to raise your hand and say, I will do this, and I promise to get involved, not just promise to point at that person up there and criticize them. Let's take an active role. One thing I do want to come and bring to you guys is increased communications. I'm a strong, strong believer in, as long as we accomplish something, we don't have to pretend to do 100 things. Let's accomplish 1, 2, or 3. Yesterday, and I'll leave you with this idea, I had a quick conversation about one of the things that the CFS, the Canadian Federation of Students, had done. They were talking about how they increase equality and equity-seeking positions and how they bring more people to the forefront. So what they thought was, why not bring a resolution to the table at convention that states, we want something different in the Constitution. Maybe we can charge less and make it cheaper for affiliates to bring people from equity-seeking groups. To make it a financial statement. So now instead of just pleading for them to bring more people. Give them a reason to. And I'm not saying we have to adopt that, but I'm saying let's have a discussion that really brings our issues to the table downstairs and not only in our own space. Once again, my name is Pablo Godoy, and I'm here to work for you guys. At the end of the day, I want 2 years from now to be standing here saying, what did Pablo do for us? And that us means you have to be involved in the process and not just leave me and Irene Taylor at a table hoping to assume what it is you want us to do for you. Thank you.